Welcome to Soulful Practices Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Holling-Brooks, and over the past 20 years, I have been on a journey of healing and awakening. I'm also a coach and practitioner for clients on their journey of unbridling their true self. The number one question I'm asked is, what meditation or practice will help me reach my goals? While there is no one meditation or secret mantra that will unlock our own awakening, there is a doorway that will lead us there. And that's the doorway of learning and cultivating the skills of self-reflection and contemplation. Each episode of this podcast offers you pocket teachings and practices that you can implement right away to help you courageously connect with living your authentic soul-led life. Let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, everybody. Michelle Holling-Brooks here, host of Soulful Practices Podcast, and I am super excited to introduce kind of a little mini series within season 4 of the podcast. So this season, we are really talking about courageously connecting with our life and like helping us be able to unlock some of those hidden ways in which we withhold ourselves from fully connecting with an idea, an inspiration, a way in which we want to show up for ourselves or for somebody else, or the way we want to just like unbridle like joy, enthusiasm, willingness to just like be in that open vulnerability with ourselves, and to really then open to when we're willing to courageously connect with our own life, that opens us up to being able to connect to our own inner wisdom, the inspiration that comes for us and with us. And that's what this episode, and actually the next 4 episodes, they kind of all string together, really are about, is liberating that creative spark. So in the first 4 episodes of this season, we've really been talking about some of those hidden blocks that really put a stranglehold on our ability to connect. We've talked about just the protective fears just in general, about how we withhold ourselves from connecting a little bit to be able to keep ourselves at a little bit of a distance from our life so it doesn't hurt so bad or disappoint us so much if something shifts or change or disappoints us. If somebody judges us, like we show up with all of our favorite shiny things and we share that, and then we get a down look eye or a little tisk or a furrowed brow or like I mean, that's okay if that's you. And just somehow, some way that triggers those small parts of ourselves, these young parts of ourselves who have experienced that, right? And so we have this book of life within us that really withholds us. And what does that look like in our everyday life? It looks like our actual ability to create the life that we want, or to connect with the life that we've actually created, really gets dialed back. It gets squashed. It gets maybe even snuffed out. And we end up self-editing ourselves to the point where it's super messy and costing us a lot of energy, like hemorrhaging energy out. So we talked about that block. We also talked about then that fear of humiliation, of really allowing ourselves to give ourselves permission to quote unquote look silly, and to be in the way in which we want to be. And really that is about moving the authority of how do we self-reflect in healthy ways? How do we have a healthy sense of satisfaction and completion with what we do, quote, in a day? How do we allow ourselves to really open to not subtly self-sabotaging ourselves in very hidden and savvy ways, and really start to bring that mindset in that says, hey, when I hear that voice, it's actually a beautiful opportunity for me to sit down next to that fear, get curious about where it comes from and why it's there, and let it share with me what its fears are so that I can tend to it, consciously tend to it, open up then to courageously saying, okay, how do I want to actually be with myself and with others now in this lifetime? How do I want to liberate myself? So now we get to dive into what are those stages of creation over the next 4 episodes. Like I said, it's like a mini one within the series and within the season, and allowing us to really courageously connect with what I call being a co-creator. We are beings of co-creation, right? It is innate, it is within us. So I would want to help you look at the 4 different stages of creation and really answer some of those hidden blocks, those ways in which we do gum ourselves up, so to speak. And then how do we lovingly and compassionately and courageously start to disconnect those pathways and connect us into ones that actually serve us? And so this one is all called Liberating Your Creative Spark, and allowing that to come forward. And that creative spark also includes your intuition. It includes that, hey, I wonder if I should reach out to that person today. The way that we are designed to interconnect with each other and be a support system, the way in which we're willing to receive support from our own inner world, our own wise one team, as I like to call it, and then also how do we offer that in that web of interconnection. So that spark of creativity is way more than, oh, I want to create a piece of artwork. Like that's a very limited view of what creative energy is. It's like, no, our life is always creating. The minute we wake up and our feet hit that floor, we have thoughts that are stirring of what intentions we want to have for the day, how we want to show up. When we're going throughout the day, our heart is constantly being a messenger for our own personal wants, wishes, and ideas and inspiration, and then also for our soul, like guiding us to go beyond just that status karmic wheel and step into truly co-creating not only what is present in our life right now, but what our life wants to grow and become, in those seeds that want to be planted, tended to, nurtured, and grow into these beautiful flowers or trees that we can then, really be in that cycle with. But it's the whole cycle, not just where we get to the place where we pick that quote fruit from the seeds that we planted. It's like the act of creation all along the way is allowing us and giving us an opportunity to release hidden restraints in our systems, to liberate ourselves, and to really begin to dance with all the elements of us. I like to call it like we have a drive within us that says, how much of our beautiful soul's light can we embody? Can we experience? Can we breathe with? Can we be with? And then how much can we offer out? And how much of somebody else's soul energy can we also provide a space for? That same spark, that same place to shine and to be with. And together, those ripples of having more and more people having open soul-led hearts in their life, it really will create quite a beautiful ripple of change that sparks that creative energy, that soul-led energy, that heart energy out into the world. Oh, it's so beautiful and it makes me excited. And it ultimately is why I do what I do. So this episode is going to focus on stage 1 of the different 4 stages of creation, and that is the spark of inspiration. In the part 2, we'll talk about stage 2, which is once I have that thought and I allow that thought to start to move through me and work its way through the chakras from this inspiration to, well, what do I perceive about that? 6th chakra, it's got to get through the mind, the mental being, which is why so much of this season is going to be about befriending the mental being, because it is the mind that will really significantly be the first gatekeeper. Then we meet it again when we get to those survival ones, and all of those places are places where we might snuff out that inspiration and never get to the stage 2, which is engaging it, giving it fully form, and not only giving it form, but actually engaging in it. I'm really excited to get to that episode too. Part 3 of the series is going to explore one of the main reasons why we don't allow inspiration to come in the first place. We squash and limit the amount we're willing to engage with it. And that is because the 4th stage of creation is releasing. Can we release our attachments to the form, even the forms that we absolutely love? I call it that we want to laminate, stick on the wall, and keep with us for all time and eternity because we absolutely love everything about it and we don't want it to change. But there's a mystical law, which is that everything is in constant motion, shifting and changing. And so releasing is a part of creation, because as soon as we give form to something, that form is actively wanting to live out its quote life, and then release its form, go back into that beautiful yin energy of all is one, and allow itself to quote disincarnate itself, to release the form. And then there is that fourth stage, and this is again another stage that we really restrict because we get nervous. What is it going to be? What is it going to look like? And that is where, from that place where that form has gone back to all is one, it starts to gather again what it wants to now come forward in a new iteration. And that is that rebirth, and allowing ourselves to start anew, right? To start that whole creative cycle again. It's that phoenix from the ashes. And so we're going to go through all four of those stages over the next for podcasts, and really help us lean into that ways in which we both experience these different stages of creation, maybe in beautiful ways. And then also, please know that we're going to have to walk with grief energy and love. So bring compassion. This is my healing tip for the next 4 episodes. And whenever you drop in, is we really want to bring that beautiful sacred witness energy with us into these episodes, so that we can hold space for maybe stories or awareness or thoughts or feelings that have never been given permission to be there, for us to meet them and love them, welcome them, allow them to be with us, and also allow the willingness to have the spark of creation with us at the same time, because it's not one or the other. It is that true version of non-attachment and non-dual thinking, which is we can have both. We can have parts of us that are needing to be seen, felt, and heard, that have never been able to share maybe a thought or a feeling or a desire or a fear that has been a part of it, that's been held stuck somewhere in our body, in our mind, and in that energetic body of us. And also the parts of us that are yearning to step into that fourth stage of creation, that rebirth, that creation anew, of once we've released that trapped energy from within us, it naturally wants to exhale and then inhale. It wants to come forward in a new way and support us with that life force energy that's not stagnant, that's not restricted, that's not bound to old rules, and can be free to go in there. So just know that that is what we're really up to this season. Is we're up to allowing ourselves to courageously connect with who we are, with our life, to honor the past and unbridle that the true you that wants to come forward and walk with you both now and in the future. So calling forward that future self too, to help guide us a little bit. All right, sound good? Let's dive in. So the first stage of creation, or what I like to call co-creation, because we are co-creators. We don't create in a vacuum. You know, we are in a collective and we are interwoven. And so that is step one for the mental being, is like, we cannot say that we are the only creator and whatever our thought is creates form in a vacuum. This is in a collective, right? And so yes, we have more degrees, quote, of influence and freedom within ourselves, but please know that your guidance and your inspiration is going to shift and going to change, because we're in a collective unit, and it does shift and it changes. And other people's choices and the way that they choose to show up does impact us. And the safety then in the system is not in staying, this is the inspiration that I got, this is the creative, this is like what it is, and I'm going to put up huge walls around that, so that I can guarantee that my intention shows up and manifests itself in its pure form. It's like, no, instead, the inspiration is step one. It gives us the starting, the launching pad, so to speak, to step into clear heart-led connections. But we are aware that that inspiration can shift and change and allow itself to come forward, which is why we had to take on those first 3 years of humiliation, self-sabotage, and self-editing, because we really need to let inspiration breathe, move, shift, change, nuance itself. Sometimes our guidance is just to get us moving in a direction, and then it's going to shift and change. And I shared a lot about that in episode 39 when I talked about the cosmic coyote, and how a lot of times if we stay really pure to just what we think we want to create, we're actually missing out on the true breath of what wants to be created through an idea. And a perfect example of that, like I shared in the last one, is my newest publishing project that is now live in Kickstarter, if you're watching this when this first comes out. And it is there, and it's just amazing. And to watch it just doing what it's doing, to see the breath and the support that's coming into it is just amazing to me. And I'm so grateful and so excited. And I would have never created it that way on my own. I needed the trust, the willingness, the faith to follow the shifts and the changes, the curveballs that were brought to me both by my own choices and then by the way the world around me was working with it and shifting and changing in the time frame that I was creating this in, and allowing all of that to support it creating a form that I could have never seen in a million years, coming out in a way that has given so much to me, both personally and in my own healing work. And then also then it gives so much more to all of you, because now it is exactly what it wanted to be versus what I thought I wanted it to be. These are all the tricky parts of that spark of inspiration that we are going to cover. So now that we've softened those attachments and those restraints and the biggest common fears, I can't go into every single one of these in a podcast format, but these are like the big three, so to speak, of those protective mechanisms that really keep us stuck in an endless feedback loop of really unhealthy decision fatigue, of what ifs, promised land thinking, self-rejection, self-editing. And now we are ready to reclaim our birthright. And that is that we are beings of creation. So one of the passages out of the Sacred Witness Oracle Guidebook that I wanted to share with you is what I wrote for this card specifically in there. And it is the card of inspiration. Take a look at it. We are designed to shift, change, and evolve. We are in a state of constant exploration and expansion. Paradoxically, our survival instincts crave consistency and predictability and compel us to only make changes that stay within our known experiences of the past, thus creating a closed system. And I want to pause here and say this closed system is the mental being. It is a system that only looks within its own experiences, within the quote book of life of our past, of the authority figures that are around us and their experiences and how they share their protective mechanisms with us through both of their actions and their literal explicit directions with us. It's a closed system, and that is where the spark of inspiration is so amazing, because it's the safety in the system, it's the grace, it's the magic, so to speak. It's the ability for us to get outside of this closed system. But when we're stuck in it, as a result, we end up abandoning our soul's inspirations that would bring us into uncharted waters and try to find the safety of the known. Inevitably, this creates a massive imbalance in our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So that's what we're trying to break out of, right? Like that's what the gift of inspiration, the spark, the fire energy within us is. It's designed to literally help us break out and transform and transmute from one form to the other. Hence the butterfly energy that's in this one, right? Is there to help us recognize that we have the power within us to shift from one form, one level of consciousness, one way of which we felt that we had to survive in the world, and can we shift to a different level of consciousness, a different way of being in our life, and a different way of showing up. And I talked about that butterfly a lot in the last couple episodes, because it really was guiding us to being here, to saying, are we willing to work with the butterfly within ourselves? Are we willing to say that, yes, I might have had this form, this habit, this way of being that absolutely served me. When the caterpillar was a caterpillar, it shouldn't have tried to live its life as a butterfly. It wouldn't have worked. It has a totally different diet. It works totally different. It sees the world totally different. It's not appropriate when we're in those quote caterpillar parts of our lives for us to say, but I'm a butterfly, so I'm going to live as a butterfly right now. Like, no, that would be out of order in our own divine flow, right? So we don't want to like shame ourselves for the caterpillar moments of our life. But we don't want to do is to lock ourselves in. And that's what the butterfly energy helps remind us, is that within us, we have this divine flow with different stages. And so how do we unlock that? And there's a beautiful quote by Mary Lou Cook, who is an author and a chef, who has since passed away, but she says, and I love this quote, and I used to have this like up on my wall of quotes. As you know, this whole podcast is based off of quotes, so I'm a quote person. And she said, creativity is inventing, is allowing ourselves to be experimenting, is growing, taking risks, breaking rules, making mistakes, and having fun. So let me just say Mary Lou's quote again, because it's just so like, it's all the mess that the mental being goes, and our heart goes, yes. So there's this push me, pull me that happens in this energy of inspiration right away. Creativity, that spark. And creativity just means I'm willing to create for this moment and the moments that are wanting to come forward if I make this choice through that law of cosmic change, right? And the law of cause and effect and manifestation. Our superpower is our ability to make a conscious choice. It takes us from that old fated karmic wheel and rockets us into our destiny, right? So to do that, though, we've got to be willing to be inventive, which means we have to be willing to look silly and not edit ourselves, all the things we already talked about, and to be experimenting. Oh, like right there, permission to what she also has later in the quote, make mistakes. And to do that, we've got to be willing to grow, to shift, to change, to take risks, right? To say, okay, I might have lived my whole life crawling around little inch by inch by inch, but now I have these like tattered wings and I'm not quite sure what to do with them. And they're how do I work them? And where's the user manual? And so I have to be willing to take risks to break the old rules that are in my system of how I lived and truly stretch those wings and let myself start to explore a whole new way, which means I'm going to make mistakes because it's new. I've never done these things before. And I think this is the number one block that I know I had. And so many clients will say to me all the time, is like, Michelle, I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, of course you don't. And like, of course you don't know how to do this because you've never had a chance to live this way. You've only ever been able to live through X, Y, and Z. And has this always existed? Yes. All the rest of the world existed when that butterfly was a caterpillar, but it just didn't have access to it. So to hold ourselves to a standard that says we should know how to do something because it existed, I hope you can see like now how you're going to go, okay, Michelle, I get it. Yeah, that is an unrealistic expectation on myself. That is really a trauma response that I should know how to do things way beyond my quote development because I was expected to do that back in the day. I was handed tasks, responsibilities, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual things that were too much, too soon, and with too little support, right? And because of that, I developed a very unique myth in my system, which says I should be able to do things beyond what I know how to do, and I should be good at it, and my life does depend on it, because back then, that was true. However, now, it is not. And that's part of breaking the rules. Like, we've got to break our own protective rules to get there. And I love that Mary Lou also reminds us, like, hey, is this hard work? Yes. Is this going to take stick-to-itiveness, the courageous like willingness to kind of go through the messy middle, so to speak? Absolutely. Are you going to have compassion with yourself when you make those mistakes? Yes. Please bring that with. It makes it so much easier because guess what? You can have fun while you are expanding, while you are shifting. And even though it sounds crazy, while you are healing some of those most tender, vulnerable, raw parts of you, in that mix, it's about allowing ourselves to have a true harmony, a mix, a chord of different notes. So I can have joy over here while I'm tending to this very raw part because I have to have that. That's the buoyancy. That's what gives me the ability to bring light into those dark places, right? To then say, come with me, come back to my heart. So inspiration means change. Change means possibility of judgments and successes and failures, and ultimately opening ourselves up to saying yes to divine chaos. And if you remember from my other ones, or if you're new to me, the whole premise of the mental being is it's designed to be able to predict what is going to happen, how I need to show up to meet those needs of that environment. And it doesn't really care if it likes what it's showing up for, or if it feels good, or if it even fits and scratches that itch, so to speak, of our personal wants, wishes, and desires, let alone our soul's inspiration and guidance to us. It just says, I want to show up in a way that I know I'm going to survive. And so it holds us again into that closed system that I was talking about. That's its job. We can't knock the mental being. Its whole job is to keep us safe, to keep us in the known, to keep us in those things. And instead, we need to befriend the mental being to be like, hey, you're not alone. You don't have to be our first line of defense. You don't have to be the only one trying to work to keep us safe. There is a divine support and healthy boundary setting that we now do. We have more degrees of freedom. We can literally move our body the way that we want to. We can show up and share our voice, and we can give it authority. We don't have to wait for somebody else to grant it and to give it to us. So there is safety, but the mind has to be willing to open to the way in which that looks from our heart and from our soul, really unlocking that there is that support that in there. So the ripple effect, when we open to this first stage, when we say, yes, I'm willing to sense, to feel, to see, to hear, to know these wisps of inspirations, these little sparks that are within us and happening all the time. We can't stop it. This is, again, our birthright. We are beings of creation, is that we need to help our system recognize that, yes, it is absolutely true. The minute we say yes to one little spark, it could be as simple as, what's a simple one? I am going to take 30 seconds and just breathe with myself. Put my hand over my heart and breathe when I feel that little spark. That freedom, that liberation to literally stop that habitual movement of my day, to hold up a stop sign to the to-do list that crashes the board at that moment. You don't have 30 seconds. You have to get so-and-so. You've got to do this. You've got to do this. This person's waiting for you. This is an email from 5 years ago that you never answered. It rifles through all the things that we could be doing with that 30 seconds, and it starts throwing it at us. And can we hold a loving stop sign up to that and say, you know what? I am going to follow this inspiration. I'm going to put my hand on my heart. I'm going to breathe. And I'm just going to welcome the fear, the worries, the concerns, the confusion, and the gratitude, the spaciousness, the exhale that's happening in my system because I made a new choice. I didn't just keep moving. I didn't plow past the inspiration that came in that said, hey, pause, give yourself 30 seconds, just breathe. Let yourself kind of clear the mind, so to speak. Because in that pause, what happens is we make room for more inspiration. We make room for that guidance to come in. We make room for something outside the closed system where our mind is just running ragged, running. And can we really pause? It's reminding me of the second movie, Inside Out too. And if you don't have kids and you haven't seen the Inside Out movies, I really recommend going and seeing them. And Inside Out 2, somebody over there in that series is doing their work. It's kind of part towards S based, but it's not official. But I think somebody over there definitely knows that, and somebody knows about limiting beliefs and how those come in, because the second one really dives into beliefs, and they start to show like the tree, and it's like so fun because that's how I see them. And so it was really fun to kind of watch it, and this poor little emotion, anxiety, is working so hard, and there's a scene in the movie where she's just running so rampant. It's like a whirlwind that's happening around this control center in the main character's Riley's mind, and she's running, 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 running. And one of the other main characters, Joy, is the only one that can like make it through this whirlwind and get to anxiety. Who's totally glitching out. Who's sort of like, I have to keep her safe. I have to try more. I have to work harder. I have to do this. I have to do that. And she's like working, working, working. This frenetic energy that's just like, whoa, right? And she's trying so hard to get inspired with how to fix something. What she's not allowing herself to do is to get that inspiration from the heart, from the joy, from that place of that's not so locked in to the fear, so that we can, quote, move from love and joy and not from fear. And that's how anxiety starts to soften, to release. And first she kind of has to crumble and say, I tried so hard, right? And that is that place of that. Once we make a new choice, once we say yes to that inspiration, there is this moment of just holding ourselves, of recognizing and saying, yeah, I see you. I see how hard you tried. I see how hard you worked to try to have that inspired choice that will, quote, give us the keys to the kingdom. And yet, let's stop. Let's open up that space. And so one little choice, no matter how small we think it is the game changer in our system. And then it will bring us to a choice point that will get us outside of that known system, which is why we don't do it, which is why we squash that from a protective mechanism, and really takes us down to where we're just running around in that frenetic energy within us. So take a look at this card again. And it is, again, this beautiful butterfly energy that reminds us that within us, there's already another stage, a new way of being. And we have more than one butterfly moments, right? Like we have many, many moments where we are wanting to shift and evolve, because again, our soul is constantly wanting to change, evolve, grow, bring in new experiences. It doesn't want to stay in one way of being. And in fact, it can feel a little bit daunting at first when we first start really working with this energy of inspiration. And I remember saying once to my spiritual director, like, can I just get a break? Like, I'd like to just like sit in the comfort of the thing that I did without another new idea coming in. And she's like, well, okay, but that's just not the way the soul works, right? So how do I shift my relationship with inspiration to where I can find comfort even in the changing tides, right? And really not have to chase every thread of inspiration, but just let them be in there. In human design, I have the gate that's called the Jack of all trades. So inspiration is quite something that's always in there. And in my natal chart, Uranus is conjunct my midheaven. So I'm constantly, by the mechanics of me, looking to continuously evolve, innovate, change, shake things up. I like to say I'm a bit of a moving target, but we all are, right? Because all of us want to experience and engage life as much as we can. And yes, we can have comfort, and yes, we can have status quo, but we're also constantly evolving and looking to create something new that's within there. The mental being struggles with it. So this card, while you would think it sits with the heart being or the soul being, it doesn't. In the deck, there's 5 different sections that are in there, and each of them represent the 5 core aspects of us. So the sacred witness is kind of like the major arcana, the core themes and archetypal patterns and stages. of really embracing that energy within us, which is the healer within all of us. That I believe that each and every one of us has, whether we engage it and access it and how much freedom we give that part of us to run, that's what's up for each one of us. The body being, right? The wisdom that's in our body being of both survival energy, but also the body is the portal. It is what our vessel in this lifetime, it is the form for us, and it is how we engage with all these different energetic parts of us. So that's in there. So we can befriend the body, shift from seeing it as like the problem, something we need to transcend, something that's like monkey mind, less than lizard brain. Like, no, like, can we shift how we look and view the body being and turn it into that beautiful sacred companion within us? And the mental being, and it also has the heart being and the soul being, they're in there too. But this card sits with the mental being for a reason, because it is the mind that really finds this whole 4 stages of creation problematic. From I can't control it, I can't predict it, I don't know what's going to happen, there are no guarantees. This is tricky business in here, right? And that is why it sits in this part of the deck, and it also sits in this part of the companion book, Trauma Informed Enlightenment, to go even deeper into unwinding, finding those stories and really releasing them and befriending through what I call creating the bridge of connection. Connection back to what? To our heart. Because our life experiences separate that from us in order to survive. The mental being is a big part of what happens in that separation. But if we didn't do it, we wouldn't have been able to meet the demands of the world around us. So the mind's job, it's not our enemy. It's not something that we want to control, fix, or change. It's something we want to befriend. And this was a huge thing, because originally in my journey, the first like 10 years of my spiritual journey and awakening, I did think my job was to transcend the ego mind, to step into quote perfection of controlling, to release myself from the grip of lower level emotions, to kind of eradicate that less than part of myself. I took all these spiritual teachings and I was running them through this very interesting construct in my mind that I think a lot of other people have felt too, which is like, that's the problem. Like these subconscious like drivers that I have within me are from those lizard and monkey mind and all these other things. And I demeaned, really devalued those parts of me. My body, had influxes and reactions of fight, fight, or freeze and fawn that were just really serving me up on platters. I really did have a part of me that looked down on this part of my system and was like, I need to transcend it. I need to transform. I need to, like, I didn't honor the caterpillar. And luckily, there was a middle part of my journey that really came in my late 30s that really said to me, like, hey, this is not the way. This is how you had to start to see that you had more power. You could change a thought. You could change your mind. You could even breathe into your body and shift how you were registering pain. You could shift how you were doing things. Like, all that is true. But now, instead of trying to override, control, or quote, fix things, what if we start to befriend things? What if we start to accept that this might be a message of a part of you that needs something, not a part of you that just needs to be snapped to and come into quote alignment with who you truly are. Like, that's a very harsh way of being with yourself, and it's a divided way. And can we release that division? And that is what came forward in those cancer healing years for me. It's like, was like the truth of what that cancer was, is it was a division within myself, compartmentalization within myself, self-loathing, rage towards self, all these different ways that I viewed that as less than. And I needed to break that up, right? I needed to take a risk of viewing myself, and which meant my life, differently. I needed to be willing to break the rules of how I had made sense of my life up until that point. I needed to be willing to mess up take, these very constructed compartmental ways that I had created for myself and really say, you know what? Some of these will make it through this, some of them might, some of them will shift form. Some of the things that I absolutely love about myself might have lived their purpose, and can I release them and can I welcome the space of the unknown to have new inspiration come in? And you know what, Michelle? Healing doesn't have to be all blood, sweat, and tears. This is when the Book of Joy with the Dalai Lama and the late Desmond Tutu and Douglas Abram, I believe. It's a transcript of 7 days that these beautiful beings spent together, and about their friendship and about the wisdom um, of how, even through everything that's happened in their lives and reasons why they could really have that image of the first 10 years of kind of what I had, how could they bring that in differently? How could they step into their lives with so much laughter and love and joy when there's still so much work to do? And that book shares about it. I love that book. It actually was the inspiration for my membership community, Connecting with Joy. And I really recommend it. I wasn't planning on talking about that, but it just really wanted to come in. And can we gain more comfort with the truth that we can challenge the status quo of our life, we can evolve it, and we can meet and be with our life as it is? And so that's why this card, not only sitting in the mental being, not only has the butterfly energy with it, it also has the apple blossom. And the apple blossom is in this deck in the soul being section, and it represents the medicine of acceptance. So the flower essence of apple blossom, really as a frequency, as a soul medicine, this beautiful tree and blossom helps us step into accepting, this is where I am planted. This is the environment that I am in. And I can rage against that, but it will disconnect me from my own life force energy. Or I can meet it and I can be with myself fully as I am. If any of you have seen the apple blossom, it's a really delicate blossom. It's not around for too much. It's here, and then it's gorgeous and beautiful. And then, like a wind can just pick these up. It's kind of like a cherry blossom. They're very similar in their soul essences. And that apple blossom, though, asks us to accept, like, what is here, and what is also here is inspiration. What's also here is the grace of how to meet the environment that we are planted in and how to tend to ourselves. We can't do that if we're subtly disengaging, disconnecting ourselves from the environment in because we don't like something about it. Rightfully so. Again, we need to honor that personal preference. I think that this is like the drum that I will continue to beat in this healing world. And that hopefully is a part of the voice that you hear from me, is like, we need to acknowledge that I have a personal preference. There is a personal quote column of me, in addition to a community-based version of me and a soul-based version. I have all three different quote stages within me. So I can say, you know what, I really don't like this. I would prefer this. I would love to have this. I would like to have that. Like, honoring that and just claiming it and breathing in with it and then exhaling and saying, and now I'm here. That's what the medicine of acceptance is about. And so for us to really open to inspiration, we got to acknowledge the closed system. We have to acknowledge what we're actually working with, that we are trying to shift from something in us, from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And there are the stages. There is the stage where the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, where it dissolves itself and then reorganizes itself based off of that inspiration that's already in there. Call those imaginal cells. Oh, I could geek out. I won't do it because I just did it in the last one. And then it allows us to come into being in that next form, right? The mental being just struggles to let us go through that whole process, hence the medicine of acceptance that's in there. But the body, the heart, and the soul, they don't struggle. They welcome it. In fact, they are willing to always be inventing, experimenting, breaking the rules, growing, shifting, making mistakes and having fun while doing it, tending to the different parts of us that need that support. They can do it super easy. So we are saying to the mind, like, come home to the heart, come out of the cold, come out of that place of being that lone wolf protector and recognizing that you're not alone. Just feel that. Like, this is a big key in helping our body accept and unbridle the inspiration that's happening all the time for us. Take a nice deep breath in and out. And just notice what protectors are up right now around this. These are your gatekeepers. They have been I love the word that Richard Schwartz came forward with them when he said protectors, because in some of the other ways that we view these aspects of us, we can deem them as problematic, as bullies, as entities that are trying to grab us and pull us back. Like, we can really put a label on these aspects of us, but in his gift of his work coming through that mental being side, of how he found it working through internal family systems, or just the family system models that then did turn into internal family systems, is that he really understood that ultimately these protectors are trying to do just that. They might have really problematic ways that they do it, might not be helpful at all on the surface, like in the outside real world, but underneath we think it is, because they're fighting for the quote greater good. And we need to help them come to our heart to recognize that there is a different way. The spark of inspiration, there can be a different way. And once the mental being starts to have more comfort with that, starts to truly trust us, opening up that bridge of connection, then it doesn't fight the process so much. It actually starts to open up to it quicker, easier. It welcomes the inspiration, and it's willing to write quote unquote new chapters, to go in to honor what needs to be seen, felt, and heard from the past, so that it can release and open up to a new way of being, changing literally the whole entire system into a new form. Thought creates form, right? Isn't it like just so cool? And in there, and to be a part of that. So this card really invites us into accepting and being with and opening to that. So when this card comes forward, it is really asking you to reflect on what new ways of being, creating, and opportunities are wanting to be born right now within you, within this world. And I always remind myself and clients that it's without an influx of time, of treasure, or talent. So you're going to have to maybe rearrange your resources, maybe open the door to a possibility. If it's a money block, releasing that. If it's a resource block of I don't have the people or the talent or the know-how or how to do this or whatever that is, that the mental brain starts throwing at you to try to get you back to the shores of the known, is we say, okay, I might not have the know-how, the talent of how to do something that I want to create. I had no idea how to create an Oracle deck. I just knew that I loved Oracle decks and I loved working with them. And all of that. I didn't know how to do a Kickstarter campaign. I didn't know how to publish my own book. Like I didn't know how to get ISBN numbers and editors and graphic designers and all these other things. Like, this was all outside of my wheelhouse and I had no idea. And when that inspiration came in to self-publish, to crowdfund, to do all these things, it was like, okay, deep breath in, deep breath out. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna fumble. And I also am going to trust that somewhere there is the grace, either the thought of an inspiration of a, hey, Michelle, go put this into Google and search this, or ask this person, hey, do you know anybody that might ... Allow yourself to get outside of the closed system that is you and trust. And this is the big key that the medicine of acceptance opens us to, and the medicine of the butterfly is trust that those next pieces that you need to keep producing the form of the inspiration that you are being guided to will come. Not before you need it, when you need it. When it is divinely ready in that divine flow with the divine chaos of life. And that's a big leap of faith, right? And so this card says to you, give yourself the gift of exploring what new thoughts and ideas, no matter how small or how trivial are really there. They are stirring within you. If you're listening to this, that means they're there. And they're wanting for you to sit down next to them and tend that little spark. Let it start to grow. Let that fire energy within you start to feel that sense of allowing it to come forward to fully incarnate and take form, which is part 2. We'll get to that next week. This week, we're going to open up these pathways. If there's been some dampers in your nervous system, and in your body and in your mind and in your survival systems that have tried to keep this level of spark at a certain level or snuff it out altogether, we want to help to start to soften that and to let that go. This card also asks you to remember to set aside time to allow yourself to dream, to be inspired, because that is one of the biggest squashers that we have to our inspiration is we're so busy, right? We're so busy moving. And so that's why I love even what channeled in. I didn't have that pre-design to say, what is that one little thing? That was an inspired thought to come in to say, hey, we need that time. Even 30 seconds gives us the space. Our mind is worried about that space because it doesn't know what will happen if we say yes to that. And so it doesn't let us take it. And so we scroll every second that we get in the thing. We chitty chat, we binge watch, we do different things. We don't allow ourselves that space. And I found this even in meditations, right? If we're only ever doing, I'm glad you do them because I put them out in guided meditations, but we don't allow ourselves space in that guided meditations. We just hit play on it and we don't let ourselves linger. That's why I always give permission to pause. Any of the meditations that I do, you won't disrupt them, you won't break the cycle. You know, we trust your beautiful energy and your wise one self, the team, in that Reiki energy to hold you and in appropriate ways as you do those different things. But we got to create that space for us to feel that spark, that, oh, I wonder, huh, I never thought of it this way, but ... Like those are all signs that the medicine of inspiration, the stage of inspiration, is trying to come in and it's trying to help you. And it's trying to help you break outside of that comfort zone and dance with new possibilities. So again, let's do a little somatic practice. We already started it, kind of putting that hand over the heart, taking a nice deep breath in and out. And when I even just say the word, allow myself to feel inspired, what do you notice happening in and around your body? Again, it doesn't have to match. You might have parts of you that are really exhaling and loving, like the tingle, the little swirl energy. You know, the fire element brings in air, and so it has this mix that goes with it, right? You also might be feeling a restriction, a nervousness, the quote, dampness of the fear energy from the water element kind of coming in to try to control that fire. Oh, by the way, I'm a 5 elements traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. So I'm working with those elements right now with in you, but you don't really need to know too much about that unless you want to. Um, just know that it's all a part of you. And that beautiful air that's often associated with a metal element gives us that ability to gain a higher perspective, so to speak, or just an unrestricted perspective. I let myself feel in to what wants to be seen, felt, and heard. I open a pathway to my heart to share a different perspective, and I open a pathway to my soul, which are going to bring us into inventing, experimenting, growing, shifting, changing, breaking up those rules, taking a risk, being willing to make those mistakes, and ultimately have fun and dance. So just feel into what does that feel like, that inspiration. Are there any fears or self-doubts that you can kind of come in as I was talking about inventing, exploring, growing, taking risks, breaking rules, making mistakes? having fun. You can have maybe one of those is really talking to you. I invite you to continue talking to that part of you, maybe throughout this week, of one of those five from this quote that maybe is really talking to you. Maybe it's a little duo or a cluster of them. And I invite you to get curious to see this week if you can start to intentionally walk with the energy of inspiration. I set the intention this week to invite myself to open to the pathway within my body. Because remember, the body is how we connect to these stirrings, these inspirations. We talk about it a lot in our mind, but the mind is nothing but a central computer operating. Like, it's our body that we feel these sparks and these ways in which it moves into, right? We don't need to go to the storage file. We want to go to the environment that's happening, and that is in and around our body being. Oh, excuse me. Something shifted in there already. So opening up to the pathways this week so you can feel those stirrings, those sparks of inspiration, and begin to just acknowledge them. Even if you can't say yes to them, even if you can't stop and put the hand to the heart, we just want to acknowledge that something in you had a spark that said, hey, slow down. Hey, I felt that. The little tap on the shoulder, the stirring of the heart, the kind of like desire to stop, find my feet, take a breath. The shift of like going from a collapsed posture to opening, or from a bracing posture to like, oh, should wiggle, 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 shake, 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 reset that vagal nerve within our system. Like, we just want to start to notice that the body is the messenger for those inspirations. And so asking for Reiki energy to really help guide your attention into the ways you might feel in your body those old stories of self-doubt or self-editing, trying to restrain you. So the self-doubt might look like a more collapsed body posture, like a churning of the gut, or the self-editing, that frenetic energy, like I'm starting to try to, like, I gotta figure this out, I gotta like think of a better way, like yes, that's a mental being thing, but how is that showing up in your body, right? And what then is that disconnecting you from in the verge of inspirations? Where do you feel the sense of humiliation, a hot flush that comes over the system, a tightening of the hands, a flushing of the cheeks, a tightening of the jaw, right? Like, what does that feel like in you when I start to even have a protective thought that says, well, what will they think? If I pause right now, put my hand on my heart, someone's going to ask me, what are you doing? and that flush is enough to keep me moving right now. We really want to slow down these conversations because, again, they're habitual. They're always there. They've been with you for years and years and years and years. Step one is always awareness and acceptance. And so we want to bring in that awareness of, like, what is our body sharing with us about these protective mechanisms, and how can we engage those differently, right? It just might be breathing with it. It might just be acknowledging it. And it might then be tending to it by inviting ourselves into a different motion. It's part two. Let's just start with awareness and acceptance that this is happening. Oh, that is real. I did have a flush, right? And also see if you can feel, if it feels good. If this one feels like part two too much, then don't worry about this one. But for those of you that it's wanting to really call to, is in addition to noticing those protective responses that the body is the messenger for, see if you can also feel that the body is also the messenger for the inspiration, for the courage, the medicines of acceptance and forgiveness and support that want to come in, the butterfly energies within you. How do you feel those? So in the flush, do I also feel a part of me that says, lean in, go towards that piece of you, right? A part of me that says, you got this, it's okay, you'll figure this out. Like, what are those aspects of you that come from what I like to call the heart and soul being, right? What are those ones feel like in and around your body? So in addition to looking for the ways that you feel the restriction, also see if you can feel the ways that you can connect with your heart and your soul being talking as well through your body, and starting to notice those as well. Because again, we are more than one thing. It's always there, it's always present. We might have gone, quote, nose blind to those types of body sensations and somatic messages, but that's because there have been protectors cutting us off from the block, and from being able to see that. And we want to invite those protectors to step back and say it's okay for us to begin to connect with the parts of us that are here to support us, to offer like a good coach, the healthy version of the critic within us, right? So from that step of awareness, the next step is invite yourself to engage in the flow of aligned action, of really being able to step into the spark of creation, if that's available to you. So if you can feel the restriction, but you also feel that your system wants you to exhale and stretch, just see, can I give that to me? And even the littlest one, like even if I'm willing to stretch a pinky, this is your heart and your small intestine meridian, heart on the back side and small intestine on the nail bed on the front side, ending points and, and beginning points. And like, can I start to say, yes, I can start to allow my heart to open. I can take, oh my God. Oh, which is a reset of my literal nervous system, and I can settle in. I can have more space in here to feel, to sense, to hear, and to be with. Oh, I love this work so much. I'm so excited for this mini series and to see what this helps open up within you and what wants to come forward for you as far as that inspiration. Once we work through all these, up next week, I said we're going to explore that stage 2, co-creation and engagement. But first, I would really love to invite you to take this time, take this gift of really befriending and opening to what does this feel like in and around my body, around these sparks of inspiration, both the parts of me that are trying to just keep me safe and kind of restrict or restrain that, and the parts of me that are willing to be there, to champion us, to courageously help us connect and open to partnering with that inspiration within us. And I also hope that the energy and the soul being medicine of butterfly and apple blossom is helpful to you as well. Talk to them. Let them share with you what that is as well. So offering you light, love, and joy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you for listening to Soulful Practices. For more information on how to work directly with me or one of my guests, check out the show notes below. We'd love for you to also let us know what parts of this episode are speaking to you and how this practice is supporting you on your healing and spiritual journey. Please share this podcast with fellow seekers, travelers. Together, we can create a wave of soul-led beings in this world, offering you light, love, and joy on your journey. Michelle Holling-Brooks. Until next time.